In week 5, we're covering chapter 10, which is the use of jQuery's user interface, or UI, themes and widgets. So themes will be the focus as well as widgets this week, and we'll be covering items and outlines that involve widgets like the accordion, button, dialog, slider, menu, and several other elements that are aligned with UI themes. Objectives that we'll be covering throughout these and others. I have found 2 links on YouTube videos that involve UI widgets and themes as well. The videos are generally between 5 and 15 minutes, and they are listed in a file this week as well, so you should be able to see that link under Getting Started, and it'll be outlined under Blackboard as well. So again, we use a common site that we've been using for the last week or two, jQueryui.com. This has a lot of material for themes and widgets, interactions and effects, which are really an anchor for jQuery use in this course, as well as web development overall. We've been using the jQuery UI, I think, since last week, and we'll be using it some more. This site has a lot of information, downloads, documentation, themes, examples. As you can see here, you got a picture of widgets that include the accordion, which is actually going to be the assignment this week, incidentally. There's an autocomplete, button, date picker, dialog, and some others. And eventually we'll be moving to stuff that are drag and drop and selectable, sortable, and resizable stuff. So you'll be seeing this stuff going forward. 4 types that we'll be covering under the UI: themes, widgets, interactions, and effects, as I noted. Core components involve the widget, the mouse, the position, and core. Common ones that I just mentioned from the jQuery UI website. It's pretty much this versus a few others. And again, a lot of these, even though the names may be a little either some familiar, some not familiar, a lot of these are on more websites than you think. So you might actually have used an accordion or a date picker or a menu or a progress bar or a slider and not actually know it if this is something fairly new to you. But working on these examples using the Maroc 2015 book, as well as the jQuery site and the jQueryui.com site, you'll find that these are becoming much more familiar. Interactions will involve sortable, which I think will also be an assignment later on, drag and drop, resize, and selectable. Some effects we can use, and these are not all that different if you think about it from stuff that we use in PowerPoint. The ability to make something move, to bounce, to blind, something in effect where you sort of come in slowly or fade out, pulsate, shake, changing the size, slide across the screen, have some highlight or fold or transfer. These are actually elements that we can also use in jQuery web development, not just something you would be familiar with in PowerPoint. So under the jQuery UI website, you can use go to a downloader builder page and get a lot of the elements, including the UI core, which includes the widget, the mouse, and the position that I noted earlier. You can download the interactions and some example widgets like the accordion. Again, that's going to be part of the assignment this week. And this will help preface some of the stuff we're going to be using throughout this week and even beyond later on in the course. So here are some basic steps, 4 of them, on building a jQuery UI download. Here from that homepage to the download link under the navigation bar. Select interactions, widgets, and effects that you need, and select the theme, and then download those, and they'll all come in a zipped folder. Now, in the zip folder, you're going to have not just the code for the UI widget and theme, it's also going to include some HTML stuff, some CSS stuff, and some JavaScript stuff, so that you can actually start from a default position and then make some modifications based on what the material in the book is asking, as well as some of the exercises for the assignment, and extrapolate the differences, which can really show you what jQuery offers here. So one of them here is the theme roller page, which allows you to use the left sidebar. It's almost like a navigation window of sorts, and these can be customized through your own UI that you downloaded. So you take that UI download that we were talking about with the theme roller, use the accordion on the left sidebar, customize those properties, make some changes to a setting, and then review the effects of those changes on the right side. And of course, once you've done that and made the modifications, reviewed those, you can go back to the Downloader Builder page and then use a custom theme with more practice. Some of the files that you will typically see with a full jQuery UI download, and these will be consistent with some of the ones, even if you deselect some widgets or some themes. By and large, the full package looks like this, but even if you unselect a few of them, you'll still get a lot of the code. As I mentioned, it involves HTML and some CSS files. Some of the coding you'll see within these allow you to sort of get a default position of where the coding stands as downloaded, and of course, through some of the objectives and exercises in the book, Chapter 10, you can apply some of the changes that will be relevant relating to themes and widgets, including the ones we'll be working on this week, like the accordion. Now, seeing here, the accordion allows you to select one while the others remain sort of deselected. And when you click on the next one, like Section 2, Section 1 minimizes and Section 2 opens up. In a way, if you've probably seen this before on some websites, it allows you to conserve space on the page. And it makes it more efficient in terms of the use of real estate. So when you download the UI and start playing around with accordion and some of the other ones, you'll notice the effect that you can do doesn't require all that much changes to code. And it makes it very effective to use throughout a website, applying widgets and themes that can make the interaction for users on your site to be less time consuming, more effective, and hopefully be more user friendly, be easier to use. So some of the methods we can use with the UI documentation, under the left sidebar, we can click on the widget name. Again, accordion is one we've already been used. We can play around with the other one that you can download as well. Download those and then use the view source link in the browser. These are up in the drop-down menu for Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, IE, and Safari if you use it. Also, you might want to review the API documentation to display information like specifications, some more details about widget options, methods, and events. Images folder will create, obviously, if you've been around enough HTML coding and downloading a lot of stuff relating to JavaScript or Java itself, as well as jQuery, you'll notice that there are some files that come with these that are called in these other files, whether they be HTML, CSS, and so on. Pretty much all relevant stuff that's all part of the package, in this case for the accordion widget. jQuery calls using this widget under the selector for the widget right here, as you can see. It's the example of what a accordion widget would look like. I think I showed you one a couple slides back. But the way you see the code here, the way you see the image of it as it comes out as a preview on the page, the next slide will show you what the code looks like that makes that apparent. And then you can see the difference of why one is minimized, such as what is jQuery and which is harder to learn, versus the one that's opened up, which is why jQuery is becoming so popular. So this is the preview, and the next slide is the code. This is what the code looks like for the accordion under HTML that we previously saw as a preview. Now remember, this reflects the second one, why is jQuery becoming so popular, using the H3 header. And next is the jQuery for it. Here's the code for the accordion, jQuery code that can be collapsible or open under a mouse over. A tabs widget, which you've probably seen on some websites, usually under stuff like Contact Us or more information of a particular site. This could be a school site, this could be a business site. A lot of organizations are trying to move to something where they can incorporate more information that makes it user-friendly without having to add a lot of complexity with code. And that's one of the reasons why I think a lot of people are using jQuery with JavaScript, is to simplify the process, make it less time-consuming, and be able to do more or do the same with less coding. And this is the preview of CSS3 HTML5 Marok's 3rd edition, which is a different book, not the book we're using here, but a different book that Marok wrote with several authors. This is the preview of it, giving the book description tab, the about authors, and who's this before. The next one is the code for it under HTML. And here it is. There's the contents with the tabs 1, 2, and 3. You got the href of the tabs under book description, about authors, and who to look for is for. The jQuery for those is right here, supporting the HTML that we just saw. Now, a button widget can be activated as a dialog widget, which is kind of a nice thing. So you have one widget that uses a marker or a trigger for another widget. And you'll probably see these going forward. Again, some sites that have a lot of information to reveal to a user to review, they want to be able to do this without adding a lot of complexity. But they want to add functionality so that the user finds the information they need and not have to dig or incur anything that makes it harder to use. You want to make it easy to use. So this button widget activates a dialog widget. Clicking on this gives that information, and the HTML that supports that is right here with the reference to, notice the image source, the dialog, and reference to HTML5, CSS3 with the div IDs. And the jQuery that supports this is seen here. So noting that we had to use the mouse as part of the location of clicking on that particular button for the dialog widget to be initiated, including this code here, with modal being true, would do that. Another widget called an autocomplete, you've probably seen this before on many websites where you use quite commonly Google, Yahoo, Bing, a lot of different search engines that are incorporated in the sites, and even sites that have their own search query, not maybe related to Google or to Yahoo or to Bing, but to have their own sort of generic search query site can include an autocomplete widget so that you don't have to type in the full name or the full logo or full information of what you're looking for. You just type the first couple letters and you get a preamble to what you're expecting. Now this preview here is supported by HTML code that you see here. The widget is labeled at the top, looks as the input ID. Now notice the jQuery code that comes with that. For the autocomplete, listed here, remember these are particular areas that can be listed in that autocomplete so that when you type something in there, these will pop up. Almost like a basic sort of database. So when you type in something, it'll either pop up as if you're looking for ADONet or Android or HTML5 or JavaScript, based on your first initial letters. Date picker widget is seen here, and we probably use this a couple times if we were making appointments over a website, maybe a doctor's appointment or something at the Red Cross or some place where you're trying to schedule something to pick something up, maybe for delivery, ordering something online, and you can incorporate a date picker widget to give the basic functionality of the date you're looking for. Again, this is the preview, and the HTML that supports that is seen here. Notice the text ID is date picker, arrival dates. Now none of the actual calendar component is there, but with the jQuery widget that comes here. The slider widget seen here, this might be apparent for something if you don't want to change the resolution of what you're seeing on your monitor or your tablet or even your laptop, but you want to change something that you're trying to focus on. Maybe you selected a piece of information and the focus of it, maybe like a paragraph or a quote or even a picture of something, it might be too small to read. Or you can simply, as part of the selectable part you're trying to find out, in this case it's a company size, you can pick a range. Now notice some of the things that you sign up for, they're asking information about what's the size of your company name, what field are you in, that kind of thing. And of course you can use this scale to determine that as opposed to actually typing the number in. HTML supporting that slider widget is here, with the jQuery following here, noting the min and max, the value, and the select component. Other widgets seen here, and there are many more available. Other links are included. Have a good week.